One of my favorite things about joining BookTube is collab videos, and I'm so excited to be doing another one. Hey everyone, it's April, and today I'm doing another collab video with another fantastic group of people. This one kind of came together on the Romance Readathon Discord, and today there are many people who are going to be bringing you your top 10 favorite historical romances. Now, it is insanely hard to narrow down favorites down to 10, so I literally got a little cutthroat and I just picked the best historical romances that I have on my bookshelf. I have a separate historical romance bookshelf in my bedroom, and it's with all of my favorites. And so I just kind of pulled these out and I got it down to 11, but they are 10 different authors. So we're going with it. Okay, one of the authors has 2 books and I couldn't pick, okay? I'm sorry. Anyways, let's get into the list. One of my first favorites is actually the book that got me into historical romance. I have to give credit where credit is due, and that is The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. This was my gateway historical romance. For good reason. I am a type of person that just really loves comedy. This has it in spades. Emma is a dressmaker and she's pissed, okay? She did not get paid because this Duke's betrothed ran out on him and did not pay for the wedding dress that she commissioned. So she puts the wedding dress on and goes to the Duke and demands her due. Instead, the Duke is like, how about you marry me instead? And she's like, okay. And thus starts this romance. The Duke of Ashbury is scarred and he is kind of monsterish, and so he only visits her for a very short amount of time each night, but each night she is more and more curious about him. And the banter, the wit, the charm, it is all there in this book. This book is fantastic. It definitely opened me up to the genre, and I think it was a perfect intro for newbies to the genre because it is so easy to grasp the concept of this Regency era and the dukes and the charm and everything about it. So definitely love this one. It's one of my favorites on my shelf. It is the hardcover version. I have the hardcover versions of all of these in this series, and I love them even though they mess up my shelf. The next favorites are, of course, the author that I could not narrow down my favorite to, so I'm going to tell you about 2 books. The author is Alexis Hall, and my 2 favorites are Something Fabulous and then A Lady for a Duke. These 2 are very different, but also similar in a lot of ways. This is a male-male couple, and then this one has a trans heroine. And they are different in the fact that this is highly comedic, highly funny. The antics in here are outrageous. It's a bit unhinged, and I think that's what I love about it the most. Also, this couple are such opposites that I just freaking love them. And in this one is probably one of the most romantic books I've read recently. It is so sweet and charming, and you really get to know both the characters in this. And look up the synopsis for both of these, okay? It's just too much to talk about, but these are my absolute favorites from this author. Highly recommend anything they write. The comedy and the way Alexis Hall just writes dialogue is amazing. And even though this is a chunker, absolutely get your hands on this. This is a fantastic historical romance. There are some people reading it for the buddy reads from the Romance Readathon, and I'm so excited. Even though I've already read it, I've been like keeping track of them, and I'm just like giddy whenever they get to certain parts. But yeah, I love both of these books with my whole heart. Another one from one of my absolute favorite authors is This is from Sarah McLean, and my favorite book of hers is Brazen and the Beast. This is the, I forget what this series is called, something about wildflowers. But this particular one is my favorite because not only is Hattie a plus size heroine, but she also has decided that on her birthday, Hattie decides she's gonna make this the year of Hattie, and she's gonna do everything that makes her happy, including going to a brothel and getting thoroughly debauched. On the way there, in the very beginning of this book, there's a man tied up in her carriage, and she literally shoves him out of it while it's moving, and it's so good. He later comes into the brothel and she's like, were you? And I just love this book. There's also a scene at the end involving a pirate ship, but he's not a pirate, but I just gotta see it. And then the step back is gorgeous as well. I love this 2-page step back. It's beautiful. And his name is Beast, by the way. Yeah, his name is Beast. He's kind of a brute, and I love it. Another like neo-classic that I love in the historical romance genre is by Lisa Kleypas. You cannot read historical romance without hearing Lisa Kleypas's name. And my favorite from her, of course, is Devil in Winter. Devil in Winter. You cannot read this book without reading the first one, so please read the first one first, because then you will realize why Sebastian St. Vincent is such a cad. He's honestly not a good dude. In the first one, he does some less than savory things to the heroine. And in this one, he kind of slowly earns back his reputation. Evie is in desperate need to get away from her family. They're abusive, and she goes up to Sebastian St. Vincent and proposes marriage to him. And then off they go in a carriage to Gretna Green to get a very quick marriage to each other. The entire way there, Sebastian cares for Evie and takes care of her, gives her a brick to warm her feet. He doesn't sleep the entire time, and it is like beautiful. Okay, beautiful. And they, Evie has a stutter, but she never has a stutter with Sebastian. So it's just this relationship that I absolutely adored. And again, I have the one with the step back. Again, one of my favorite step backs, even though I don't particularly love the model in this, but at the same time, I don't care because this is one of my all-time favorite books. Another newer favorite from an author that I recently discovered and absolutely love is Daria Vernon, and this one is Get Thee Off My Lawn. This is a very quick, short, romantic comedy, historical romance. It's lovely. This girl's name is April. I know, I'm kind of biased, but I love her. She owns a swan named Gerald, and Gerald just keeps getting into trouble, okay? Gerald keeps venturing into the neighbor's pond, and when she goes to get it, she gets stuck in the pond herself, and the neighbor comes down and like kind of laughs at her over the situation, but also helps her out because it was kind of a funny situation. They sneak into his house, have a wonderful time together getting cleaned up, and things go from there. Even though this is really short, it was so funny, it was so fun. I really loved the banter of these two and what they get into, and there's definitely some steamy times in this, so I love this one. So one of my next favorite authors is Joanna Shupe, and my favorite from Joanna Shupe is The Prince of Broadway. Clayton is a casino owner, and he kind of holds the wealth of a lot of his patrons, and he meets Florence. Florence comes to him and she wants to open up a casino of her own, but just for women. Well, Clayton has it out for her father. So he's kind of got this revenge story going on. And during one of the times that they meet in his casino, there's a raid and they have to hide. And in comes one of the best masturbation scenes I've ever come across in historical romance. I wouldn't say this book is incredibly spicy, but there is spice and there's high steam. So both of these characters are great. I love the plot in this. I love that it's set in New York, and yeah, one of my favorites. Another one of my favorite authors, Diana Quincy, and my favorite book from her is The Marquis Makes His Move. In this you have Rose. Her father is a map maker, however her father sucks at it. So she kind of makes all the maps in his name. And then you have the Marquis of Brazen, who is looking for this map maker, and he disguises himself as a footman in her household to try and figure out who made this particular map. And he is the worst footman ever. Like, I don't know how he's not discovered right away. But he does start a relationship with Rose, and it is such a good book, so sweet. I loved the secretive aspect of it, and I love all the other like household attendants that know he's terrible, but he's just like, oh, I can't believe you guys live like this. I'm gonna bring you some fresh food. And everyone just kind of goes with it. I really love Diana Quincy. She likes to write strong women who are also business owners, so one of my favorites from her, but honestly, you can't go wrong with anything Diana Quincy writes. 3 more to talk about, and this is one of my favorites from Kate Bateman, who again is a newer favorite. This is A Wicked Game. This is the 3rd book in this series, but one of my favorites. Kate Bateman just writes banter like you wouldn't believe. In this you have childhood friends to lovers. Morgan is going away to war. He's going to the Navy, and before he leaves, Harriet promises him 3 kisses. And so they take the bet, and when he returns, he demands those 3 kisses, only he doesn't tell her where he wants them. So this man is in love with Harriet completely. In fact, he always has been, and he is a man with a plan, and he's just trying to woo her the entire time, and it is so lovely. I love the banter. I don't always like friends to lovers type stories, but this one worked for me. You get a few flashbacks from when they're kids as well that also enhance the story. And yeah, it's one of my favorites. I hands down love Kate Bateman's writing. Always a good time when I read her books, and I absolutely want to continue reading more from her. The next book from another favorite author of mine is Amelie Howard, and my favorite book from Amelie is The Duke in Question. This is one of her recent books, and it's definitely one of my favorites. In this you have Bronwyn, who is kind of a spy. She's taking letters on a passenger liner to America to thwart the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And then also during her voyage on the passenger ship, she meets up with Valentine, who is a retired agent of the Crown. He's tasked to find the mole who stole letters from the British Home Office. And when they figure out who each of them are, it's kind of becomes a game of cat and mouse, and it's so lovely. There's a great deflowering scene against a tree here that is just one of my favorites, and there's a lot of like running away from gunfire. They're kind of running away from another like bad guy type situations, and this has a lot of action in it for a historical romance, and I absolutely love it. Sorry, y'all, my camera died, but we're on the last book, and that is another one from one of my favorite authors, Stacey Reid, and my favorite from her is The Wolf and the Wildflower. I think this is a great book if you are a first-timer to historical romance. I honestly think you could just go into it with this book. And in this you have the Duke of Wolverton, who has been lost in the wilderness for more than 10 years since he was a child. And everyone thinks that, you know, maybe he's not all there anymore. The family is concerned because if the Duke is not able to take his place in the family, then the family could lose their title and their standings and their lands and all their money. So they hire Jules and her father, who are therapists, I guess you could call them, or psychiatrists. And when they meet, the Duke is very taken with Jules. Jules has been pretending she's a boy since she was born through certain circumstances regarding her birth. And she has been able to study under her father, who is now a world famous psychologist. And so her and her dad kind of work tandem on this case. But when the Duke literally sniffs her out, he is intrigued by this woman pretending to be a man and why she is doing that. And he refuses to work with her father, and he only wants to work with Jules. And this is such a lovely story. It's so romantic and so sweet, and you just end up really falling for both the Duke and Jules, and I love it. I love it so much. I love it so much. Anyways, those are my top 10 historical romances that I have on my shelf. I love them to death, and I hope you do too. Let me know what some of your favorites are in the historical romance subgenre. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.